take it. Got it! Boston wins!
Two legends in basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience. This is the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast.
NBA, some college, a little bit of everything. You know, what can I say? But it wasn't going to happen here.
It is time for the World Championship version of the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay along for the ride pod here on CLNS, brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Bob, before we get going, you got to stand up. You got to show the garb. You got to show what you're wearing. You get your media pass. You get the shirt, whatever it takes. There you go, Bob.
This was a shirt I scarfed up last night. They were giving them out. I grabbed one, and it says, "Yeah, whatever it takes." This is the emblem of the 2024 champions.
Well, Bob, you were there last night, so why don't you just tell us about it? What you saw?
It was a celebration. It was a coronation, as it turned out, and it was a celebration. The crowd has been great throughout the playoffs, and the whole atmosphere of the Garden is so different than it was in years past. This group of fans, this generation, and I'd say including the people who were the fans for the championship 17. This is their team. This is, all the other stuff is like ancient history, and this is their team, and these people, these younger people, because it's a predominantly young crowd of generations X's and Z's and so forth, they're good celebrators. The Garden beforehand, that atmosphere is unlike anything I'd ever seen. Afterward was completely crazy, chaotic. Blocked off Causeway Street, blocked off Canal Street, all the side streets. I had to figure out a way to get back to my car up in Central Plaza. The highlight, I had a laugh. I got to an intersection of Haverhill Street, couldn't get through it, and they were singing "Sweet Caroline," and so good. And it was just so much fun to be there. And the team gave them an appropriate clinching game, no stress, wire to wire. That's good. This registered. It was wire to wire. They never lost the lead. 1 point at one point. I think it was 15-14. And then they ran off the end of the first quarter. And it was no stress ever in this game. And of course, but the absolute, I can't say cherry on the sundae, but except it was the premature cherry on the sundae. When Pritchard, I saw him come in. I said, "Oh, we know they want to try to give him the ball. 4 seconds to go. Ball out the other end." I mean, you can't make this S blank 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 up. You can't. That he did it again. He did it. This will list test of time. I guarantee he'll be the only man in the history of American sport, the NBA, who will hit 2 half-court shots in the same series, let alone the finals. But he didn't play much at all. So he's the designated half-court shooter.
And Bob, as you like to say, and as we all know, there are the players like Pritchard's that have played for the Patriots, have played for the Bruins, have played for the Red Sox, that will never have to buy a drink in Boston.
No. It's not quite Dave Roberts level, but it's in that general umbrella. Yeah, I mean, he had an excellent year. He didn't play much in this series. Obviously, Joe thought there was a matchup thing or whatever. I always want him. I always want to see him. But anyway, he'll be able to tell the grandchildren a good tale or two about what he did in the finals in 2024. So it was a fantasy. I kept saying it. I was sitting with a gentleman after the game during the second half, and we were commiserating it. It was a fantasy. I kept saying, and that this is what you dream of if you're a fan, a stressless clinching game, and it was a great night to be there.
Jeff, have the Celtics made team basketball fashionable again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy because think about this, guys. In mid-January of 2022, this was a 500 team that a lot of people, myself included, were like, I just don't think this is working, right? It's not working. Tatum and Jalen. And then what did Brad Stevens do? He went out and traded for Derek White, and Derek wasn't great that second half. He was trying to figure himself out in this team and everything like that. And just think about in 2+ years how many changes have been made, right? Like, obviously you had Ime Udoka then, and now you got Joe Mazzulla as a coach, right? You add Derek White, and a lot of people viewed that trade as a disaster when White was struggling to make a shot in the postseason that year. Then obviously, you get Porzingis in this trade, and you get rid of a guy that, again, it had run its course with Marcus Smart. And then you go get Jrue Holiday, who basically takes the place of Marcus Smart, and a guy you could trust to make good decisions. It all fell into place, Gary. And again, they are a team. I mean, again, is Jason Tatum, you can poke holes in Tatum and Jaylen Brown and all this stuff, but they've got enough around them that it's not just about them like it is at Dallas. It's just about Luke and Kyrie. And if those guys don't play well, they have no chance. Where at the Celtics, if Tatum has a bad game or Jaylen Brown has a bad game or a bad half, they're fine because they have enough other pieces.
Bob, do they remind you of the Spurs?
Well, they're constructed different. Let's face it. They don't remind me of anybody. I mean, they really don't. They're the unique package, and partly because they got the 1-2 guys who complement it with an E and an I each other, all the time, and they got the backcourt is just extraordinary. I got to tell you, it's my favorite Celtic backcourt of all time for me. And I've been back. I'm not counting Cousy and Sharman. I wasn't here for that, but I'm talking about since I showed up and started covering in 1969. My favorite backcourt. I'm not saying it's the best necessarily, although it probably is, but it's my favorite. These guys are just they just don't, they get it. So and they just get it as well as any player I've ever seen.
And every way, on the court, off the court, like it's amazing how those guys do not yearn for the limelight at all. And Jrue Holiday, he was on a title team, and Derek White's they're perfect for this team, for really any team. I mean, they really are.
They are. And so, I texted Brad about 10 days ago, and kiddingly, and I X'd this out, I said, if you were Catholic, you'd have to go to confession for stealing Derek White from the Spurs. And he came back and said, and the thing is, he's even a better off the court. He said he's a better teammate and classy, guy. And I said, well, that makes two, right? You got two of them. I keep saying, every team in the league, every coach, every GM is probably saying, they got two. That's not fair. One of those guys would be one to a customer. They got two that are like this.
Well, I've heard this all year, guys. I've heard this from Celtics people in the organization all year, and they'll say, this is crazy because not only is this such a talented team, but they're the lowest maintenance group ever. There's no issues, high character. How often do you get that? Because again, on most of these teams, listen, I love Draymond, but he's not exactly, low maintenance, right? On all these championship teams, I feel like you've got a guy or two at least that is high maintenance to deal with. There is nobody on this Celtics team that is high maintenance. So Joe Mazzulla he had a great. I mean, he did. Now, he did a great job this year, but man, talk about a guy who inherited the ideal situation in a lot of ways. He did.
But he really did blossom. He really did the second year show us, he had learned some from the first year. I laugh every time he calls an appropriate timeout now. I just have to chuckle. And I mean, I was schooled at Masters and calling times out, and to see him do it the right way now is really fun. But no, he deserves a lot of credit, of course. It just I want to just go back how dominant this playoff, by the way, this playoff started, they lasted 67 days, by the way, guys, believe it or not, 67 days since April 14th. And they began with a 20-point win over Miami to start it off. And they ended up with a rousing, victory last night by 18. It could have been 30. And it's one of the dominant runs anyone ever had. They won 20-point victories, 4 of them, won by 30. Half of their victories were by 15 or more. 8 of their 16 victories were by 15 or more. Okay. That's I mean, that speaks for itself about how much better they were, as it turns out, than everybody else. They answered all our questions. We all knew it wasn't about talent. We've been saying that here for 2 years. It's not about talent. It's about putting it together the right way, performing in the clutch. How are you going to play with 2 minutes to go and the score tied and all that, which they had not been good at. What are they going to nitpick now? There's nothing. There's no nit to pick, and there isn't right now. Now we can start with, can they repeat? Well, they've already started that, by the way, on television. Well, I don't want to go there. I want to celebrate.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that right now. I'm not worried about that because, first of all, they got to stay healthy. And, but anyway, this is one of the great.
They're set up for it, Bob. Bob, the one thing is,
they are
teams that win titles, especially in this era right now, are not contractually set up to be able to repeat with their core. Brad Stevens has done a remarkable job, right? Not only, keeping Tatum and Brown, and obviously Tatum's going to sign an incredible contract. And he'll lock in Derek White, I would assume. And you look at this team right now, and honestly, Horford will be gone. We know that at some point. It might be this year, next year, whatever it is. He's going to be gone. But they should have everybody. And oh, by the way, almost everybody, other than Jrue Holiday getting older, everybody's kind of in their prime.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Now, if you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays, which increases your chance of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. The finals mean more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players. You get boosted playoffs on selected basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. Now, this week on Prize Picks, I'm looking at Jason Tatum, more than 26.5 points. Jaylen Brown, more than 3 threes, which may be aggressive, but I'm running with that. Download that app today and use a code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. I heard the comparison between the Red Sox now and the Celtics ownership, and I don't have the exact numbers, but they're spent like $300 million over the cap. I mean, they will spend. They're like the Warriors. The Warriors said, look, we want to win titles. We're going to spend the money. This Celtic ownership, they got penalties like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they are putting their money where their mouths is. And that's when you pay a Jaylen Brown. I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have for a bunch of rich people. But, Jeff, when you have Jaylen Brown making $300 million and you have, Tatum's going to make that money, ownership is putting it on the table.
Yeah, this isn't exactly John Henry, is it?
No, I mean, it's a lot of money, folks. I mean, it's hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties, and they're doing it. They don't care.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
there was a
fans.
story.
That's the difference. These guys are actual
They're fans.
and businessmen. And I almost feel like for them, for Wick and Pagliuca, like it's almost like fan first. And
Well, Wick there was a big feature story that we had the Globe had recently about Wick, and Wick made stressed that point continually. We are fans who bought the team, and our priority is we want to win. And that, I mean, it's nice luxury to have. I mean, this is talk about a world that none of us can imagine being in that position, but they are, and that's what they're doing with their money. Well, and I hope their family is okay with it.
Well, I think, but I also think, Bob, I mean, if you take a look at, and this has been, I remember when the ownership first came in, and some of the criticism was too many cooks in the kitchen. You got all these owners. Well, I mean, Wick is the managing partner. Okay, so he's the guy at the head of the table, right? So he's the guy that deals with basketball ops and not. So that's understood. But when you look at all these other guys, and Jimmy Pallotta, and if you go down the list of owners, there's a lot of money behind it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money. So it's a good thing, is what I'm saying, is that they have a lot of owners, because they have a lot of billionaires that are supporting this team. It's not just like Wick, Steve, and the Epsteins. And I think that helps them. I think some people, Bob, thought this was going to be a problem. It's not a problem.
No, no, no. Well, it's just it's all. I said it's all come to fruition.
Right.
I really feel. I mean, we don't. These guys. We don't really know these people. We never do. But you got to feel happy for the journey that Tatum and Brown have made together. That they keep, which.
Well, I mean, Bob, let's talk to. I mean, Jeff knows them, and Jeff, I want you to get into that relationship, but I want you to talk to both guys because, like you guys both said it. The only criticism of Jason Tatum was he didn't shoot great in the playoffs and he keeps his kid up too late. I mean, he's a wonderful. At the age of 19, he became a single father, and the dude stepped up. Okay, he has started an incredible charity for his hometown of East St. Louis. He's won an NBA championship. He put team first. Jaylen Brown is an incredible activist, extremely bright guy, and also put team first. So, like, where did these two guys come from?
Well, yeah, they were both the third pick. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, look at what Danny Ainge did. I mean, he traded down to get Tatum. I mean, they traded down. They had the number 1 overall pick that year. They traded down and luckily did not draft Markelle Fultz.
Well,
instead got Tatum.
I think they faked the world out on that one. That was a great Danny.
And Bob was on Tatum. I do remember. I mean, Bob, people have given you a hard time for Smart, but you wanted Tatum. You were on with us on television, and you said Tatum's my guy from day one.
Yeah. Well, I certainly didn't want Fultz, and he's never had a career, and part of it's injury, and part of it is personality, but anyway, but Tatum, it's just it ranks right up there. I mean, we've had some monumental draft day things in 1980. 56 was one, in 1980 there was one, in 2007 trading Ray Allen for the number 5 pick for Ray Allen, without which Garnett never comes. He won't. Right. He's not coming. So that's another draft day. So there's 4 monumental draft days that the Celtics have had in their history that produce championships.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember saying it, as recently as, again, 2 years ago, like Tatum and Jaylen Brown there wasn't a lot of synergy in the way they played on the court together. They weren't making life easier for one another, right? And I think Tatum actually, both of them got better, but Tatum's game completely changed over the last couple of years. And, he became more of a facilitator, a guy who made people better instead of scoring being his mentality. And he always
he had 9 assists in the first half last night.
Yeah.
He always had this. I have told Jason Tatum this, honestly, for you don't know how many years of, hey, listen, you're not just a scorer. I remember the first time I saw him was at LeBron James camp in Las Vegas. And I said to myself, and he was, 16 years old. And I'm like, this kid is going to be that versatile forward who can do everything. And he got away from the passing aspect. And at Duke, he was more of a scorer. Then when he came to the Celtics, they threw him in the corner. If you remember his rookie year and second year, he literally stood in the right wing,
right,
while Kyrie was the guy with the ball in his hands, and Isaiah Thomas. But again, listen, we talked about this years ago. Like, they're not boys. They're not boys. They're not hanging out all the time. But you don't have to be. And I think they've become a lot closer because of what they've had to go through, right? All the critics that have come out. And listen, some of them rightfully so. I was one of those critics for a while that did not feel like those two could win with the team being what it was. Now, again, my take was, like maybe you need to trade Jaylen Brown at that point. Well, what Brad Stevens did was say, you know what, we're going to keep those two, and we're going to trade the other guys around them. We're going to trade Robert Williams. We're going to trade Grant Williams. We're going to trade Marcus Smart. And we're going to bring in guys who really know how to play. That's what they did. So it made Tatum and Brown's job easier. So they didn't have remember, I forget who it was who told me a few years ago. Actually, I know who it was. I'm not going to say who it was because it was a player that went against him. And he said to me, it's so easy to defend this team right now with Brown and Tatum. All you got to do is worry about those two guys. You don't have to worry about anybody else. Well, that has changed dramatically now. Think of that. Think of that. You can't just worry about them.
First 8 guys make threes, first of all, but there's no selfish player among them at all. And, you know, and it just goes down to the bench guys knowing who they are. I mean, I don't know, you know, ultimately what the level of stardom that either Pritchard or Hauser aspire to or think they can attain. And I'm sure they both would like more playing time, but, and maybe now that they got a ring, maybe they'll start, you know, maybe they'll get antsy. I don't know, but they have complemented this team, those guys very well this year. Both those guys had great stretches of you know, where they really helped this team. And yeah, so they fit into it. And of course, then there's the whole Porzingis thing. That's the most interesting, intriguing thing about this playoff March is it was so much was accomplished without him, and that they were able to circumvent, you know, to overcome his loss. But boy, did he make an important contribution in
You
game
guys
one.
were right. Hey, give him credit. He went out there and he gutted it out. I didn't think he
Game one of this series, which, you know, got him off to a rousing start, and you know, who knows what residual benefit there was derived from winning that game in that fashion and how good he was. That's as good a game as anybody played for the Celtics in the whole playoffs, frankly.
Oh, no doubt.
And you know, it's a great contribution.
Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. Like right now, I was looking on the app, and it's really easy to use. Just download the app. Lots of pictures for us sports fans, lots of pictures. And, you know, the tickets for Celtics Game 1 and whoever they play, between $600-700. But the closer you get to actual tip time, it's going to go down. So you and your friends may do a last-minute thing. And I know it's a lot of money, but maybe it's 2-3 of your friends, last-minute trip, boom, let's go. Let's see what the tickets are on Game Time. You never know. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Okay, here's the deal. Last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Now, the flash dealers save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section for the zone deals. You choose a section, let Game Time choose the seats. Sounds pretty good to me. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's not easy being a fan of ripping packs or repacks. Now, we hype ourselves up thinking we could pull Larry Bird 1990 card that's worth about $775. Yeah, but with zero transparency on available cards and hit rates, it's all just a shot in the dark. Until now. Introducing slab packs from arenaclub.com, the only repack that provides real value with a complete view of all possible cards and clear hit rates for each one. And when I buy slab packs on Arena Club, it finally feels like I know what I'm getting. I mean, listen, it is the marketplace for card collecting, buying, trading, selling, display, full transparency. Arena Club's slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your vault for safekeeping or trading and selling. You can have them officially graded by Arena Club. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided, an explanation on how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off of your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/hoops. I mean, that's crazy. Right? Wow, what an offer. 10% off a $400 slab pack. That's $40 right there. Anyways, that's arenaclub.com/hoops for 10% off of your first purchase. What I observed from this team, as far as the three-point shot is concerned, is that when the 3-point shot was a result of passing and going to the basket, it worked. When they're going off the dribble and they're going one-on-one, it doesn't. And when this team was at its best is when they were going to the basket. They were they went up by 10 last night. They weren't down. 10 consecutive points, 5 feet are in on the hoop.
Yep.
Like when they went to the basket, like,
Yep.
Tatum, I know Tatum, look, he wasn't great offensively. I don't care about that. To me, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, they all had a great playoff run. I'm just saying that right off the board. You want to nitpick certain stuff, go for it. I'm not going there. But what I witnessed, Bob, and I want Jeff to chime in on this, is Tatum seems to me, when he really works the defense going to the paint with a reverse dribble and changing direction, almost Paul Pierce-like, but more athletically, he's unstoppable.
Well, he's 6'10", and he has this extraordinary body control and agility, and it's high level. And this is this is the physical package that he's gifted with, frankly, and so and he makes the most of it. And I love him when he goes to the hoop. And
that's his strength to me. Everybody loves the three, but I think that's his strength. I don't know, Jeff.
I was trying to think after the game. Was there any, Jeff? Do you think in your mind's eye, did he take even one ill-advised forced three last night?
No, maybe
Brown did. Brown came down once, and I yelled. And at a point when I don't know, a second, they didn't need. I said, "You don't need this shot." He took it in the first 5 seconds of the 24. He forced a stupid three. It didn't hurt them any. But I don't remember Tatum forcing any unnecessary.
All his shots. If you look at his shot chart, most of them were driving to the basket. Which again, that's what you do. Like, do that, and you open it up for everybody else. I mean, again, he's one of the more complete players. I said a few years ago, he's the most complete player in the NBA. I don't know if he's the most. I just would say this: there aren't too many guys in the league that can do what he does in every facet of the game, right? He can shoot the three, he can drive, he can handle, he can make people better, he can rebound, he can defend. There's not too many guys that don't have a glaring hole in their game like Jason Tatum. I mean, there just aren't. There may be a couple that are right there.
As I said several times during the course of the playoffs, and I'll say it one more time, the great evolution for him is as a rebounder. He has become a terrific traffic rebounder. And when you really need a rebound, he's one of those guys that gets it. He may not average 12 or 13 a game, but he can get, but boy, he is an excellent rebounder. And it was, I don't remember that being
tough now. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, where 5 years ago, he was scared to go to the basket. He honestly, he would avoid contact at all costs. Now he embraces contact.
Yeah, right.
And I thought he whined a lot less in the finals. He did. And that was one of the things that, for me, listen, the coolest moment for me still last night was post game, seeing him with Deuce. For me, again, I've known this kid since he was 15, 16 years old. I've watched him grow from somebody that wouldn't say 2 words. I think I did the first interview ever with him on ESPN when he was in high school in Springfield at the Hall of Fame tournament. And I think I did the first one with him at Duke as well on TV for ESPN. So I've known this kid a long time. And I remember him telling me, and it was on a podcast, how he didn't tell anybody. He was embarrassed to tell the Celtics organization when he found out he was going to be a father. And think of how far this kid has come now, where,
oh my God,
embarrassed. He is literally won't go anywhere without Deuce. And people, again, have kind of gotten on him for pregame, having Deuce basically out there with him, shooting and messing around with him. So I don't know, man. Like, I have a soft spot in my heart for Jason Tatum, the person, and I always will, just because, again, I've seen his growth. I've seen the criticism. I remember seeing guys. I covered the draft when he was drafted that year, and there were all sorts of rumors at the time they drafted him through that draft that they were going to trade him for Jimmy Butler that night. And he and his mom are asking me throughout the whole draft, like, Are they keeping him? Are they trading him? What's going on? He's all nervous that entire night that he's not going to be a Boston Celtic.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well,
That's an amazing story. I mean, that Jeff, that's good stuff. Okay, now I want to move on to Jaylen Brown. And people, not only did the team benefit for the arrival of Jrue Holiday, but also addition by subtraction. And I'm not here to stomp on Smart. I don't want to do that. But when Marcus left, Jaylen was able to take more of a leadership role, and he was able to flex that muscle that Tatum just doesn't have, guys. Tatum is a nice guy. Tatum's not going to growl at you. Jaylen Brown can. And we saw that, and he took that role. And I remember, Jeff, maybe you can tell me, or Bob, jump in, because I can't remember which one of you guys brought this. Somebody brought this up. It was during the Miami series, and I think it was Brown went to Missoula, and Joe had just taken over, so it's a different situation. Joe went to Missoula and said, I want to take Jimmy Butler. Yes. And at the time, Marcus wanted to take Jimmy Butler, and that was a problem. And now you saw last night, Jaylen Brown said, if Luka stays on the floor, I'm not coming out. So by not having Marcus here, I think it just freed Brown to be who he is.
That's a very interesting theory. I hadn't thought about that in those terms, but I think you're right. And he's a very self-confident individual. There's no question. And I predict that his future post basketball will not involve basketball.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
So that's not here nor there, but I'm just saying that's who the human being is. Yeah, I can't add much more to that. He's just he is now can go. He's got back-to-back MVPs in the playoffs, conference and finals. It's tremendous, and he's just turned out to be a terrific player. That's all.
Listen,
yeah.
Give him his flowers. He deserves it. And again, I've been critical of Jaylen Brown over the years, and I think a lot of it was again justified. I mean, listen. He had trouble with his handle. We know that. He didn't make people better. I think, the sign of a great player is one who takes the criticism and actually looks in the mirror and says, like, I need to get better at this stuff.
Sure.
And he did. He got a lot better this year. I mean, last year in the playoffs, he was a mess. This year in the playoffs, there was no sign. Again, he didn't even look like the same player from a year ago. And again, I think these guys have understood from the get-go here, like Tatum and Brown, all right, we do need one another. And we're both getting crushed. And if we shut everybody up, really doesn't matter. Like, do I think Tatum was a little bit disappointed that he didn't get the MVP last night? Maybe. But the key is don't show it. Even if you are disappointed. I think overall, winning the title completely overshadowed anything of NBA Finals. You could see it. He wasn't giving up that trophy. Jaylen had his own. Tatum wasn't giving up the trophy everywhere he went. He had that. He's hugging it. So I think, this was obviously the end goal here. And I think there'll be more opportunities for Jason Tatum to get MVP awards in the future.
Yeah. Well, they realize that the trophy guy got is the one that counts. I want to go to Jrue Holiday now. And Jrue Holiday was my MVP. And again, I'm splitting hairs. Whatever. Let's talk about Jrue Holiday, Bob. His activity, and while we don't really need to get game specific in last night's game, but his activity in last night's game was amazing. He was everywhere.
Well, he's a consummate all-around guard now. I mean, we know he can, in the modern game, he can make the necessary three. He's got great inside maneuverability at both hands. Defensively, he's a proven commodity, all-league defensive player, an Olympian, by the way, again, and he's just a wonderful player. And people, he's finally getting, even in Milwaukee when he won, I don't think that the recognition was, it was so much about Giannis and deservedly so, and even Middleton, that you didn't talk about Holiday that much. And now he in this exposure, people are going to recognize how good Jrue Holiday is, and we're finding out all these things about him as a person and the family upbringing, which was tremendous. And he's too good, almost too good to be true in a sense. He says the right thing always. everybody speaks so highly of him. I mean, you're just privileged to have the guy, and we want to thank Damian Lillard for causing all this to happen. If Damian Lillard doesn't piss his way out of Portland, we don't have Jrue Holiday. Period. And yeah, anybody would have wanted him. I mean, I don't give Brad as much credit for that one as for White. Only because there's nobody would have turned down the opportunity to get Jrue Holiday. But we're lucky we got him. I mean,
we also may be lucky that the Celtics may be lucky that the trade involving Brogdon to the Clippers didn't go through. Because I mean, they ended up trading him anyway, but they ended up, remember, then they had to trade Smart in the deal for Porzingis, which I think allowed him to keep another first-round pick that they ended up throwing in the deal to get Jrue Holiday. So I feel like the initial trade of the Clippers not going through might have been a savior in some regards. I also want to say with Jrue Holiday, like he's not flashy at all. In any part of him, there's zero flash, right? You never see him dunk, right? Like he doesn't take these like deep threes. He toes up the line every time. Defensively, he just does what he's supposed to do. There's just zero flash. He doesn't say more than, when people ask him a question on the podium, what does he say? Like 10 words, and then he's done. He doesn't want the attention. You can tell. Like he is just like the perfect player to put in for this team, just as Derek White was. Like they're identical. They're almost identical in
as I said, they got
what they bring.
They got two, and nobody. They got two. One should be one to a customer in a fair world. It's not a fair world. Celtics have this. They got two. It is my favorite, but Celtic favorite backcourt of all time.
And also last night on NBC Sports Boston with Eddie House and Scal, they were talking to Jrue Holiday, and he pointed out that when he had the 26 points, he said 9 assists came from Jason Tatum. He made that point to say, because they started to talk about Tatum and how he's done so many different things. And he said, by the way, he says, my big night, 9 assists came from Jason. So he goes, I don't get those points without Tatum. That's the type of guy and the type of vision he is. Well, gentlemen, it was a blast to watch the game. It was great. It's just always great.
I'm going to go to the parade. Hey, guys, so my nephew came in.
So you got to go.
I'm going to go to the first parade I've ever been to. And luckily it's Friday, so it's not going to be 96 degrees. I think it's only going to be 80 Friday. But I will actually go to the parade, which is going to be very interesting. I'm not sure how excited I am. Like I don't know. I'll let you know. I'll report back next week and let you know.
I will be in Tanguay territory on Friday. I will not. I'll be 200 miles northwest of the parade in rural Maine.
That's right, in the great state of Maine. Bob will be dipping his toes in the lake.
Yeah,
and
safer. But
yeah. Well, I covered a lot of parades and covering them.
But weren't you in a truck? Weren't you in a truck?
That was the marathon.
So what were you doing?
I was in the marathon. I was never in a truck for a parade. I was in the marathon, Boston Marathon. I covered the wheelchair race. I was in the truck for Channel 4. But I've been at various locations. I've been at the library for the parade.
As a fan or covering?
Oh no! I've never gone as a fan. It's always been covering the parade. I've been at the library. I've been at different posts along the way. I've been at the Common. So
do you have any suggestions for me how to navigate this thing?
Do you know anybody? Yeah, I could tell you this. The one thing I want to add though is when you're doing a parade, it is kind of like, well, here they come. And there they go. It's like, okay, hey, Jonathan Papelbon's hammered. Look at him go. Do you know anybody with a building?
Oh, that's a good
seriously.
idea.
Like my wife used to work downtown, and if they're in a conference room, find somebody on the 3rd or 4th floor. That's your bet. And then you just, you can open the windows and get the flare. It's great. You'll have a great time. You never will have a great time. All right, guys, always a pleasure. We are going to continue to talk throughout the summer.
Yes.
We will, Dan Shaughnessy, by the way, I got a promo this. Dan Shaughnessy is going to join Bob and I at some point, and I'm going to do a retrospect. We are going to talk about the careers of Bob Ryan and Dan Shaughnessy. That is coming up later on this summer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. See you guys.